everybody, welcome to another episode of Cannabis Tech Talks. You're chopping it up with Chuck. We are here today to bring you some great content as always. And today we're going to talk about the most exciting thing you've ever thought of in your business:
Account.
numbers, accounting, taxes, compliance. Anything else?
No, I think that's about it. That's good stuff.
This is going to be really, really good stuff. And you guys might know that I am Charles Warner. I'm the editor in chief with Cannabis and Tech Today. We've been bringing you this podcast for about 5 years now. And we always bring great guests. And I am super excited to introduce our guest today. She is the president of High Times Accounting, Inc., Jaime Soares. And she is here to talk to us about accounting. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm excited.
I'm so glad to see you here. And by the way, for the people that are watching right now and listening, her and I met at NECAN. We were up there in Boston. And what did you think of NECAN?
So
Jane?
NECAN was awesome for us. This is our second year that we have done it. We plan to do it again next year. It's nice to meet the dispensaries and cultivators that are going to come in and see what's the newest stuff out. And they also come to see us to see, hey, how do we help with accounting? How do we, manage our books and our business all at the same time? So it's a lot of fun. We get to meet a lot of new people, and it was a great time.
Yeah, I thought the vibe just at the event, just in the whole area was very collaborative. Like I've been to some events like in California, and it's not the same. Like, that's a different market, and it was not as energetic, as what I felt like the people up there in Boston were.
Well, Boston's always a place to be. I mean, every time you come, you come to sports events, you come wherever you do in Boston, we're always friendly and love having people around. But I did feel like the NECAN was great. It was nice to hear from other people in exhibitors that came over to our booth and was like, wow, you guys are here again. And it's during tax season. You're crazy. But we were able to manage it. And so it was a good time.
Yeah, yeah. And by the way, have we got you after tax season? Is this technically like we're through the rush? Is that when everybody goes bananas around, what is that, April 15th?
April 15th. So yeah, we're through the rush. I actually can breathe again. We do have extensions and some corporate things that we need to get through, but now we have until October, so it's not so bad. But yes, we're through the rush, thank God.
We're through the rush. I know, right? It's hard to get a hold of your accountant that week before deadline day, because it seems like you guys are working some pretty heavy hours, and not that people in the cannabis industry or just business owners in general would be procrastinators, but I bet you get a lot of people that are kind of last minute trying to get everything under the wire.
Absolutely. We have those clients that just call us the day of, and it's like, hey, I want to get my taxes done. And I'm like, yeah, well, there's 15 other people in front of you that have given this stuff 2 weeks prior. But what people we can do? Absolutely. They're always.
Yeah. So how did you, we always start, excuse me, we always start with kind of like your background. How did you get into the cannabis industry? Everybody's always got kind of an interesting story of what brought them into the cannabis industry. We're all a bunch of, we're like the toys from the island, misfit toys, and we've all come here into this industry. What brought you in?
So actually, it's kind of a little funny story. I was in regular traditional accounting. I worked for a company that, I was growing with the company, and I decided I wanted to be my own boss. I actually started a different business first. We started JLS Accounting, which is traditional accounting.
Mm-hmm.
I had a CPA that I do a lot of referrals back and forth with, and he's like, please come and fix because he was an investor in one of the dispensaries. Please come and fix my accounting department and make sure that it's all set up properly. And I'm like, all right. So I threw an astronomical number at him, and he said, absolutely, I can meet that. Do it. And so I went to work for a dispensary. I did it for a year, and I decided that I didn't want to work in corporate anymore. And so I ended up leaving, but I loved the dispensary aspect. And so my partner and I decided to open up High Times Accounting. We had a couple clients that came to us, and they were like, can you help us? And I wanted to keep it separate from my traditional accounting firm. So we opened up High Times Accounting, and that's how we came to being where we are now.
Yeah, yeah. And were you a fan of cannabis before? Were you what was your relationship to the plant?
um, I did not like it. I have
Okay.
no desire to ever use it.
Okay.
My daughter was very heavily into it. She was a huge influencer. She was all around it. And
Uh,
you know how it is with kids, at one point there's a lot of things that maybe you don't connect with. Well, I went into this business with a little bit of that, hey, I'm going to be able to connect with my daughter and be able to talk with her about it. And so that was something that brought us together. And so that's how I decided, yeah, let's go into it. Let's do it.
that's cool. That's awesome. Hey, man, anything to help you bond a little bit with your kids? I mean, that's great.
Which is crazy because right now she's no longer in it. She's pregnant and now she can't do cannabis anymore, but that's okay. It's
Yeah.
wonderful. It's a wonderful thing. I mean, I'm glad we decided to move into it because they need more accountants in this field.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like there's some areas of the business where cannabis companies are like super like boom, they are dialed in. Like when it comes to cultivation, when it comes to, you know what I mean, the techniques, like there's a lot of skills that have been established for years, sometimes generations in the industry. Sometimes it seems like where they lag behind a little bit is some of these areas that maybe seem boring but are really, really important for their business. You know what I mean? And I feel like accounting is one of those that kind of fits in there.
It is. A lot of dispensaries, a lot of cultivators or farms that open up, they're like, yeah, I can do this. This is great. They don't realize the extensive work in the background, making
Uh-huh.
sure that, you're tracking your accounts payable to make sure your bills are paid or that you're paying your sales tax, your sales and use or your marijuana and retail. Those are key components to be able to make sure that you can stay alive. You might be
Hmm.
able to grow the best weed out there,
Yeah.
if you can't pay your bills and you can't continue to get the product to make sure that you're growing it, it's not going to do you any good. And so having an accounting background and having that set up properly from the beginning is
Yeah.
it's huge. And if you don't, I've had many clients that come to us and they're like, I should have called you a year and a half ago. And so it costs them a hell of a lot more money to fix the problem after 12 months than it does if we were to do it right away because we're doing it properly in the beginning.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, but at least they recognize, okay, we should be doing this with a professional. You know, there's a certain point where you just recognize that, look, let me focus on my core business competencies and get an expert to handle this because, you know, if you fumble your accounting, it could really cost you in the long run, right?
Yeah, it can. I mean, I had a client, I'll give you a little brief story. I had a client that asked us to come and help them out because the person that they hired was doing everything by journal entry. And the guy that was in there ended up messing up their sales tax filing. And they had an audit. It cost them $20,000 with us to come in
Oh,
and
yeah.
everything right. To bypass the audit was flying colors, but it's a lot of work if you don't do it properly in the beginning.
Yeah. And when we talk about accounting, I mean, does that encompass for the people that are listening and maybe aren't sure, is that just books? Does that also include things like taxes, compliance, payroll? Do you guys do that or do you just stick to certain areas or what?
So it does encompass all of it, but it depends on what they're looking for. So
Okay.
for us, we do taxes. We don't do the compliance side of it. We'll do taxes, we'll do payroll, and we'll do bookkeeping. We'll
Okay.
filing of your sales tax. We'll manage that stuff. We'll work and have a relationship with your banks because that's a
That's
key
great.
important thing for you. And
Yeah.
we'll monitor a lot of banks when you're working with them, if you're doing any type of ACH payments, there has to be approvals for those ACH payments to go out. And so instead of it going to the owner, it comes to us so that we're like, yep, we know what's gone out when we give it the approval and the owner doesn't have to worry about it.
That's yeah. That probably takes a lot of pressure off those owners knowing that you've got a pro that's handling all that stuff. You don't have to worry about it. You know, it's yeah. I always say get professionals to do stuff. Don't try to figure it out yourself, especially when it comes to the IRS.
Yeah. And we partner up with some different payroll companies. We will process the payroll.
Uh-huh.
But we'll partner up with a couple cannabis payroll companies that are out there that have a really strong background that have been doing cannabis payroll for a while. You'll get the bigger companies that will say, we can do cannabis. And then as you're ready to turn it on, they're like, oh, no, we can't. And so
Yeah.
it becomes a problem big time.
Yes.
when you're starting and all of a sudden you have a dispensary that's opening and you can't run payroll. And we've had a couple of them that have come to us and said, "Can you get me on?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I have somebody that can do it," and immediately. And so we're able to
This
set it
this
up.
happens a lot. There's still a lot of stigma with a lot of businesses out there. Like I've seen it. We've had it personally. I think we had Stripe, and once Stripe found out we don't even touch a plant. We print magazines and do podcasts and content and right. We're the media. And once they found out that we were even involved with cannabis, they were like, we're out. And so I'm sure that happens probably more often than some people realize.
It happened with us. High Times Accounting does do
Wow.
nothing with cannabis other than QuickBooks and
Yeah.
managing more books. And they stopped us from doing direct deposit with payroll. We couldn't do it anymore. I had to get a third party to do it. They're like, "You're involved in cannabis." I'm like, "But I don't touch the plant. Like I'm so far removed from it."
Yeah.
But it didn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that that's going to change down the road, but we'll see.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, listen, let's get to the big hoo-ha that just happened here a couple days ago. Holy guacamole. I feel like this is kind of like Christmas, New Year's, the 4th of July, the Super Bowl, the Grammys all rolled into one for the cannabis industry. Can you talk to the audience a little bit about what this means with the imminent I guess rescheduling of cannabis from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3.
Yeah. And so honestly, it's going to make a big impact. It really is. I mean, in Massachusetts itself, we
Uh-huh.
had already gotten rid of 280E on the state level, where we were just the governor would put it into effect and said, "No, we're not going to deal with that. Just file your taxes and take your expenses." So that was always a good thing.
That's
Uh,
great.
but now on the federal level, it is going to make it so that smaller businesses, other payroll companies, other banks can now jump in if they want to. They don't have to go through all of those extra provisions to be able to manage it. It's
Yeah.
also going to make it so there's a lot of banks, and again, I won't throw anybody under the bus, but there are a lot of banks that are out there that they charge a ton of money, bank
Mhm.
fees, to manage cannabis. Well, now what's
Yes.
happening? It's not, they're going to end up having to become competitive.
Yes.
Costs are going to go down. Profits are going to go up with cannabis businesses because they're going to have options. They don't
Yes.
have options right now. And so
So
on
they charged an arm and a leg. If they would take cannabis, they basically were, jacking up fees and making it so that, yeah, the businesses had to just pay left and right for stuff that normal businesses, wouldn't have to deal with the hassle, the headache.
yes. And so it's going to be a huge impact. And I'm honestly excited to see what the impact is going to be because a lot of cannabis companies they can't have credit cards.
Right.
No credit cards because credit card companies when I was at my dispensary that I worked at, we got closed down from the major ones because they knew we were doing cannabis. It's like
Yeah.
and they were personal cards. They weren't even business cards. And so it's going to be really awesome for our clients to be able to get a business credit card. And I don't know how quickly that's going to happen, but it should
Yeah.
happen rather quickly. And so it'll be nice instead of using just cash all the time.
Yes, yes, that's another thing. Yeah, that's dangerous. That creates a big time liability for employees, a much more opportunity for things like, robberies and stuff like that. Not having to deal in cash is gonna probably make the industry safer.
Well, and the other thing that you can think of, so when I started my job at the dispensary way back when, I feel like I'm
Yeah.
so way back when, it was one of those, it was one of those things where um, they would look at if you wanted to go and buy a house or you wanted to go and get a car or you wanted to
Yes.
do some sort of significant purchase and you were tied to cannabis, a lot of times they would say no.
Yep.
Even though you have a paycheck, even though it's a W-2, it is not federally, it wasn't legal. And so they were like, "No, we can't give you a loan." And so I think that's going to also help on the personal side with everybody. They are going to open that up with other banks being able to, it's going to be like normal money. I mean, it was always normal money, but
Yeah.
unfortunately they didn't think it was that. And so
Yeah.
hopefully it's going to be a huge impact. It's
You know how deep it runs. I didn't realize this, but I guess the six major banks in Canada do not bank with cannabis companies in Canada. They don't do it because they do business in the US, and just them doing business, even though it's totally legal in Canada, those banks didn't want to work with cannabis companies in Canada because it's federally illegal here, and that could ruin their status for banking relations with us. That's how far, our policy reaches, all the way over to our friends up north, eh?
yeah. Hey,
Sorry, Canada. Sorry.
I love it. I love it.
Have some poutine.
Have some poutine. Oh my God. No, it really, it honestly, it does. It digs in so big time. I mean, there are some states in the United States that are still don't want cannabis in
Yeah,
there.
of course.
Um, Hopefully they'll come around eventually because I mean that's crazy not to. It's just a moneymaker. Like
Yeah.
it's not a money. And a lot of people will sit here and tell you, "Oh, you must be making a ton of money owning a dispensary." Not the case.
Yeah.
Absolutely not the case. And that's because there are so many taxes involved because the IRS level never allowed it and it was totally illegal that they were able to tax left and right on everything. Now with this changing, it's going to become like cigarettes.
Yeah.
Way back when it took 10 or 15 years for cigarettes to actually make it through the world, and now it's okay to buy, or alcohol. And so it's the same thing. And so hopefully it's going to even out the whole playing field and make it so that it's not going to impact the business owners so much because there isn't a whole lot that they can make.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're the only industry that says, like, tax us, tax us. And then we're like, okay, could you stop taxing us? Like, that's a lot of taxes, like a ridiculous amount. And it's hard for them. Like you said, everybody thinks, oh, you're in the cannabis industry. It just sells itself. It's a tough biz. It's getting especially in the established markets. It's getting, it's starting to thin the herd right now. You're starting to see in those mature markets where, it's just not as bullish as it is in the emerging markets, like on the East Coast and Florida and Ohio and, Massachusetts. Those markets, man, they've really been battered, the early ones. So that's good, man. This should bring them some relief. I think I saw something where, them being able to now write things off could represent what, hundreds of millions, maybe billions of dollars.
Yeah, they'll be able to write a lot of stuff off and they'll be able to become like an everyday company that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
It, I can't wait to see what next year's tax returns are going to be. And a lot of people this year have kind of extended
Yeah.
purposely so that
Smart.
they can actually just wait until October because by then, hopefully, we'll already be through the
Yeah.
thick of it and be able to they'll be able to take those adjustments. So,
Yes. Yes, yes. And by the way, for those that are listening and watching, this episode is brought to you by High Tech USA Professional Packaging Services. These guys are experts. If you're needing any kind of packaging stuff, High Tech, that's HITEK USA, High Tech, check them out. They're pretty awesome. Lots of packaging, all the stuff that goes around that. Definitely make sure that you go to their website and check them out. Okay. And anyways, we're back. I'm here with Jaime, High Times Accounting Inc. Jaime, I got to ask you, what are some common mistakes that maybe you could help educate our audience to not do? Maybe a couple things that you see cannabis businesses doing a lot, business owners, maybe entrepreneurs. What are a couple mistakes that you could say, hey, don't do this?
so I think one of the biggest ones is, they want to find people that are involved in cannabis. And when I mean involved with cannabis, they partake in it. They're doing it on a daily basis. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say let's not find those people to work for you, but you want to be very careful when you're hiring because
Yeah.
it's a business.
Yeah.
It is not, hey, let's have a playground and let's have people coming and they're going to smoke all day long and they're going to be high as a kite while they're handling their client, their customers.
Yeah.
It's a business. And so they tend to, well, I want to hire people that understand the product. Okay, understand the product to what extent? So
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the biggest things that I have seen. And a lot of times what it happens is they'll hire those people and then they don't last. Or they're not I don't even know the word. They're not responsible enough to come to work all the time. And so then they feel that of, oh, maybe I should have hired somebody different. But to be fair, people that don't do cannabis, that aren't smoking weed, tend to shy away from working in a dispensary because it had that stigma against it with
Yeah.
it and now becoming a Schedule 3 and it not being illegal. We may end up getting that different amount of people that come in and want to apply and work in an industry that's so different than everything else.
Yeah.
A couple of the other things that I think they need to do, they need to make sure that they have their accounting system. And I know I'm accounting, but they need to make sure they have their accounting system up. You
Yeah.
know, have their core people that they're going to be working with, their accounting people, their IT people. They want to make sure that they've got their alarm systems going. Let's not hire friends of friends of friends because that's not going to work. Hire people
Yeah.
that are going to actually want to be a part of your business and are going to sell your business because that is how you grow.
Yeah.
And just make sure that you have your procedures in place, a handbook, those types of things that you need to have. It's not one of these, oh, I'll get to that in 3 years. Well,
Mm-hmm.
it's that first year that you hire people that you're going to have issues and you want to make sure you have all that stuff in place. I started my other business, JLS, first, and I didn't have any of these things. And so I'm sitting here today because I didn't do what I am telling you to do now because I
Yeah.
screwed up and I messed up. And so now I want to help you guys, or I want to help my clients be like, this is what I did and I messed up. Let's not let you do that.
Yes, yes. And I just want to add into that, like I, get a chance to talk to lots of smart people like you, at events like NECAN, here on Cannabis Tech Talks. I get to talk to smart people, and I will just say to the people that are listening right now, make sure that you take care of your IT and your cybersecurity. It's a really, really big thing. You might think, oh, I'll take care of that later, like you just said. Don't. It's really, really important. You can get hacked. There can be all kinds of problems right there. So make sure that your cybersecurity is just as good as your physical security. Make sure that you've got some great accounting. Make sure that you have people to look out for you, and make sure you're taking advantage of all the, any tax benefits. A couple years ago, there was the ERTC that was huge for the industry, where they were able to get some money for having employees there. Like, you just want to make sure that you have professionals, like you said, covering your money, your legal, your cyber, and your IT. Those are some things that people put up. And insurance, you got to have some insurance too, in case, some things happen. So those are areas I think that, sometimes get put on the back burner, but when you really need them, man, they're so important to have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the ERTC is still open. It hasn't reopened
Okay.
the IRS, but just to make sure that it's clear, if they haven't done it, we do them, and
Okay.
it will open back up again. And so
Okay.
it's going to happen again and take advantage of it.
Absolutely. Yes. No, that's so good. And then do you work in all the states? Can you help, multi-state operators? Can you help let our audience know, are you just some markets or?
So we are primarily in New England. Uh,
Okay.
we are open to other states. We don't have any other clients in other states right now, but we are more than happy to do it. We'll learn the rules and regulations on our dime to be able to help you guys or help whoever it is that needs them to set themselves up. So we are looking to expand across the United States, but it's just so much easier when you're living close by.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you could have that kind of, yeah, that, close contact, and you really know what's going on in your backyard.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we work with Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Maine, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Vermont. So
I love New England.
I think
Um,
it's the only place where you can actually hit 5 states in
yeah.
a day if you decide to drive somewhere.
I love that. I love that. So, well, we're going to get ready to wrap it up here. Can you tell the audience where they can get a hold of you, where they can find you, ask you some questions, maybe see about working with you? Here's where you can do your shout outs, your website, whatever, phone number.
Yep. So my phone number is all right. So High Times Accounting You can get us on our website at hightimesacct.com. You can get me at info@hightimesacct.com, or you can call me at 617-644-0420.
I love it. I'm actually, after this is over, I'm going to get with you because I would love to have you help us with some stuff that we need to do for taxes and everything. So this has just been absolutely awesome to talk with you. I'm so glad we met up at NECAN. For those of you that are at home, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Cannabis Tech Talks. This was brought to you by High Tech USA. We're here with Jaime Soares, and it was a pleasure. High Times Accounting Inc. Make sure that you reach out to her. She is super smart. She's going to save you a lot of money in the long run. Don't try to just get your buddy to do your books and do your accounting. Get a professional. You're in the cannabis industry. Be smart and make sure that you reach out, get this stuff taken care of. For those of you at home right now, if you like this episode, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and again, thank you for this episode of Cannabis Tech Talks. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us.